spaces in the back on my right side over here. There's plenty of spaces. Just try to spread apart as much as we can. And we really appreciate, other than people coming up to read, we appreciate you keeping on your masks. For those of you that are doing English readings, we do have a place over here for you to come. Abigail will demonstrate as the first one later on. Welcome, Shabbat Shalom. It's so good to be present on this very holy occasion. When we come together to celebrate someone having an event like a bar or bat mitzvah, it's really a sacred occasion. And how wonderful for us at Shir Shalom to be able to host the second Abramowitz occasion. And we have one more to go, as Ethan told me, in 5 years. We are using, for those, I know some of us are joining virtually. We are so grateful to have you in whatever platform you're coming in. We are using a Mishkan Tefillah prayer book from the Reform Movement. It is available on the Shir Shalom website if you want to follow along, or just listen. Jacob will be leading and praying most of the service in honor of his bar mitzvah. And if you're not familiar with the Hebrew, there is transliteration in there as well. We are going to get started on page 288 in the prayer book, and Jacob is going to be leading us in a reading called May My Life.
May my life be one link in a chain of goodness. As I say the prayers of my ancestors, help me to recall their devotion and faithfulness, their joy and suffering, which are in every word. Holiness is my heritage, may I be worthy of it. May our tradition live in me and pass from me to generations I shall never know, enriched by the truth that I found and the good deeds I've done. So may I fulfill my task on earth and receive my blessing. And when the service ends and the prayers have ceased, help me to bring the Spirit into the world in which I live. May I love God above all and my neighbor as myself, and be a living witness to the truth that never changes. Modeh ani lefhanecha melech chai v'kayam shechechazarta binishmati bechemla rabba emunatecha Rabba emunatecha.
The prayer that Jacob just offered, the Modeh Ani, is one we say when we first wake up in the morning. So grateful just to be present and to be alive, most especially on a day like today. I'd like to invite up Jacob's parents, Lori and Andy, to present him with his talit, picked out in our very own Shir Shalom gift shop. A talit, the prayer shawl, is given when someone becomes a Jewish adult, like Jacob is today, and hopefully he will be using this sacred garment whenever he comes in for prayer services, as now he is included among our Jewish adults here that make our sacred quorum. Jacob will be reciting the blessing on page 289 on the bottom, and Lori and Andy, why don't you put it over his shoulders?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu hitatef batzitzi.
Amen. Blessed are you, God, King of the universe, who sanctifies us through your commandments and commands us to wear the fringe garment to remember the sacred corners of our life. As this is Jacob's very first time doing this, wearing this, he's going to also say the Shekianu prayer for new things.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'echeanu v'kimanu v'higianu la'azman hazeh.
Amen. Blessed are you, God, who brings us life, who allows us to be present today and arrive at this very moment we are in right now. I'd like to invite up Jacob's sister, Abigail, who was getting a bat mitzvah just a few years ago. On page 298, we have a reading about the sacred things we do in our lives that is from the Talmud.
These are the things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all.
Thank you, Abigail. Invite everyone to rise for the Barchu, our call of community, which will be led by the cantor. It's on page 313.
Baruch hu et Adonai, Hamevavach. Baruch Adonai, Hamevavach, le'olam va'ed.
We remain standing for the Shema on page 318, and Jacob will lead us.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Mechuto Leolam Va'ed.
You may be seated. And the V'ahavta on page 319.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'chol nafshecha u'chol meodecha. V'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shiftecha bevetecha uvlechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha ukshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvish arecha leman tiskeru v'asitem et kol mitzotai v'hitem keroshim Elohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem mi'eretz Mitzrayim lihiyot lachem l'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem.
We continue with the Micha Mocha on page 322, and Cantor Frank will lead us.
Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neda b'kodesh, nora teilot osef ele, nora teilot osef ele, shir chadasha shebecho geulim, hashimcha sevatayam, yachal kulam, hodu v'hilchu v'ameru, Adonai yimlach le'olam va'ed.
And we rise.
So Yisrael, como Bezrat Yisrael, uvtik romecha, Yehuda v'Yisrael, Galenu, Adonai tzivot, Shemo, Kedosh, Yisrael, Baruch atah
We continue with our own personal prayers silently, starting on page 323 to page 337. You may be seated whenever you're ready. continue with the Oseh Shalom on page 337.
Say shalom bimromav, huya say shalom aleinu, vehakol Israel, vihimru, amen. Ya say shalom, shalom aleinu, v'al Israel. Ya say shalom, shalom aleinu, al kol Israel. Ya say shalom, shalom aleinu, al kol Israel. Ya say shalom, shalom aleinu, al kol Israel.
May God grant us peace on this occasion throughout the world, here with us today and in all of our lives. We're going to now turn to the Torah service, which is the main moment of a bar mitzvah, where Jacob will read from the Torah and the Haftorah and also teach us lessons from this week's Torah portion. We are going to be turning to page 366 in our prayer books, and I'd like to invite up a number of people. Welcome to those of you joining us. We are going to be inviting up his grandparents, Phil and Connie, Grandma and Grandpa. What do you go by? Grandma and Grandpa. Okay. Why don't you go here on Jacob's left side and just stand next to him? And I'm going to invite Jacob's immediate family to stand next to him on his right side. The whole family. We are going to be passing down the Torah, literally, to Jacob. The Torah are scrolls of Moses that come all the way from Mount Sinai thousands of years ago and have been passed down from generation to generation in many Jews' families all the way, and Jacob's family all the way to him today. And today is when he officially receives Torah. I'm going to ask Andy to take the Torah that's in the stand over here, and I'm going to invite everyone to rise at this point. As Andy passes the Torah between the different generations, all the way to Jacob, Cantor will be singing L'dor Vador from generation to generation.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador nagin kod lecha. L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador nagin kod lecha. L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador nagin kod lecha. L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador.
L'dor Vador nagin kod lecha.
Jacob, I want you to feel that scroll in your arms, feel the weight of tradition that's being handed to you, and Jacob is going to be leading us responsibly in the prayers in the middle of 366.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadlu Adonai Iti, Honor Mama Shemo Yachdav.
We'll now put that Torah back in the holder, and we're going to invite everyone to sit at this point. We are going to be turning to the reading of the Torah. We're going to invite Jacob to come to our other Torah that's set up. everything we're doing today is with COVID precautions. This was not the way things were when Abigail was here just a few years ago. We are trying to make sure that we're as safe as possible. And this also means that Jacob and his family are actually in control of quite a bit of the Torah, which is a real benefit to our new arrangement. So Jacob is going to find the place. We are in the Torah portion Ekev from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 7, verse 12. I'm going to invite Harvey Horowitz over here, who will serve as the gabbai, which is the spotter, if you want to think about gymnastics. There's probably a baseball version too, Jacob. And Mr. Horowitz is going to be coming up here to look and make sure that if Jacob needs any help with his reading. Harvey, in addition to training Jacob for this day, making sure he knows his Torah and his Haftorah, has also been Jacob's teacher over the years, and it's really wonderful to have him as an important part of this occasion. We are going to be, if you want to reach under your seats in front of you, you're going to look for a book that Harvey has over here.
It might have a dust cover on it.
It's not everyone has that, so you'll have to see. If you're lucky, you win the lottery. That's called the Hertz Commentary. And what page are we on, Harvey?
780.
780, if you would like to follow along. We are going to be inviting different people to have the blessings before and after the Torah. We do have the blessings up here. You can take your prayer book. The blessings, I believe, are on 368. But you can also use the blessings that are up here. For the first Aliyah, we are going to invite up again your grandfather and uncles, Jacob, Phil Abramowitz, Ben Abramowitz, and David Abramowitz. Yamdu, Raphael Baruch, Ben Yaakov Gedalia, Benjamin Michael, David Yosef, Ben Raphael Baruch, Laliyah Harishona. And just be very careful of the microphone wires down here. And Jacob, you want to just show them the place?
That's ready.
Yeah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. V'haya ekev tishme'un et hamishpatim ha'ele ushmartem vasitem otam v'shamar Adonai Elohecha lecha et habarit va'et hachesed asher nishba la'avotecha va'ahevecha uverochecha v'herbecha uverach perivitnecha uferi admatecha deganecha v'tiroshecha v'yitzarecha Shagar lafecha astarot zonecha al ha'adama asher nishba lavotecha latetzlach. Baruch tiyeh mikol ha'amim lo yeh b'cha akar v'akara uviv hamatecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Yesher koach. We're going to invite you guys to sit down. And again, please be careful of the wires. And now we are going to be inviting up Andy and Lori. And if the other kids want to join as well for the parents' blessing. Yamdu. Proud parents, Laliyah Hasheni.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMbarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. V'heisir Adonai Mimcha Kol Holy V'chomad V'ei Mitzrayim Haraim Asher Yadata Lo Yesimam Bach Untanam B'chosonecha V'chelata Et Kol Ha'amim Asher Adonai Elohecha Noten Lach Lo Tachos Einecha Alehem Velo Ta'avod Et Alohehem Ki Mokesh Hu Lach Ki Tomar Bilvavecha Rabim Hagoyim Ha'ele Mimene Echa Ucha Lohorisham.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet. V'chayei olam nata b'tilhenu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. We're going to invite everyone to rise at this point as we're going to call Jacob up for the very first time as a bar mitzvah to the Torah. And Jacob is going to be called up by his sacred Hebrew name, Yaakov Gedalia ben Abramowitz Veliora. And what we'll do is we're going to support him with strength. Only if you're able, it's okay to remain seated. Okay. What we'll do is we're going to take our fist like this, and we're going to go chazak, chazak. That just means strength. And Harvey is going to do the official pronouncement of Jacob's name, and on my cue, we'll do chazak.
Yamod, 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 Habachur Habar Mitzvah, Yaakov Gedalia, Ben Abramowitz V'Leora, Maftir.
Chazak. Perfect, you did. All right, Jacob's going to do the blessing before the Torah as well.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Lo tira mehem zachor tizkor et asher asa Adonai Elohecha lefar'o ucho mitzrayim hamosot hagdulot asher ra'u einecha v'hatot v'moftim v'hayat hazakah v'hazro v'hantuya asher hotziacha Adonai Elohecha Kenya aseh Adonai Elohecha l'cholcha amim asher ata yorei mipneihem v'gam et tatzira yashalach Adonai Elohecha bam ad avod hanisharim panas v'hanistarim mi panecha.
And the blessing after the Torah.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'chei Olam Nata B'Dochenu Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Misha Berak Avotenu Abraham Yitzchak Yaakov Yimotenu Sarah Rachel Leah. May the Holy One bless their ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Bless Jacob, who has risen today in honor of Torah, in honor of Shabbat, in honor of his bar mitzvah, in honor of family and community. May he continue to astound us with his wisdom and with his diligence, and may we continue to come together for sacred occasions like this one in the near and the far future. And we say, Amen. Jacob, I'm going to ask you to put the cover on the Torah. Oh, we forgot one thing there. We were using our old yad. Why don't you hold up inside the bag over there? Now that you've read, that is your yad presented by our religious school. Hold that up for everyone to see. Okay, yeah. And Joanne Marcusy picked that out, so thank you, Joanne, in the back. If you want to put the cover on, you can take that back to your seat, Eve. That will go with you. Hopefully you'll have a chance to read many times in the future. Now we're going to invite everyone to sit down at this point. Jacob, we're going to invite you back to the other microphone. Jacob will now be reading from the Haftarah, the additional reading. What page are we going to be on?
794.
We turn to 794. The blessings are in our prayer books. Let's see.
372.
372, if you want to follow the blessings.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'rtza v'divrehem ha'ne'emarim ba'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe avdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nvi'eh ha'emet v'tzedek.
Amen.
V'atomer Tzion azavani Adonai v'Adonai shechechani hatishkach isha ula merachem ben bitna gam ele tishkachna ve'anochi lo eshkacheich hein al kapayim hakotich chomotaich negdi tamid miharu banaich Harsaichem achivaich mi mechitzeu se isaviv einaich rei kulam nikbitzu va'ulach chayani neumadonai ki chulam ka'adi tilvashik utkasharim kakala ki charvotaich b'shomotaich ve'eretz harisutech Ki ata tetzri meoshev v'rachaku mevalaich od yemru ve'aznaich b'nei shikulaich sarli hamakom geshali ve'esheva. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam, zor kol haolamim, sadik becho hadarot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'amer be'oseh, hamdaber u'makayem, shekol devarav, emet batzedek, al ha'torah, v'al ha'avodah, v'al hanvim ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, l'kedusha v'limnucha, lecha bold ultif aretz. Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvrachim otach itbarach shimcha v'afi chol chai tamid leolam va'ed baruch atah Adonai
Baruch Shemo.
mekadesh hashabbat.
Amen.
Amen. Jacob, I'm going to invite you to come over here more to the center of our community. And Andy, can you just put his talus on? It's falling off a little bit there. What we're going to be doing now, you're receiving candy not to eat. You can eat it afterwards in the parking lot. But this is actually to throw at Jacob, not to throw hard. This is not baseball pitchers. Are there any members of his baseball team here? Just checking, because I'll go into the other room. Oh, there are. Okay. Now, Jacob, you weren't the pitcher, were you? On your team? No. You were sometimes. Oh boy. Okay. I know these kids can pitch pretty fast too. What we're going to do is we're going to shower him very lightly in sweetness. It's perfectly fine if the candy lands at his feet. This is an old tradition that we have. that when we begin our Torah study, begin learning, it should be sweet. We put a little honey on top of the letters. And when it finishes at the bar bat mitzvah, we also have a little bit of sweetness. So what we'll do again is toss. Now, Jacob, you are allowed to dodge. You're allowed to twist. You're not allowed to turn your back. You are not allowed to throw back at the congregants gathered here. But you can use your defensive mechanisms, your quick reflexes there. And we'll do this on Cantor's cue. She'll be singing Siman Tov and Mazel Tov. Raise your hand if you still need candy. And we thank Ethan and his uncle for passing out the candy. Oh, I hear the crinkle. I think we're ready. Okay, I'm going to sit back down.
Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Siman Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Siman Tov, Yehelanu, 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 Uvechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Uvechol Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu.
Any of the kids that want to come help clean up, come up to the front. We could use you. Any kids?
Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Uvechol Yisrael.
Any of the kids here that would like to assist, just put the things, and we'll have these ready, the candy ready for after services here. We really appreciate the fastest cleanup. Now, Ethan, I forgot to tell you one thing, so I guess it's only fair. There is the what comes around goes around. You do have a bar mitzvah in 5 years, so I don't think Jacob's going to be forgetting those wonderful tosses there. And at this point, we'll have Jacob, you can take a seat. I think we did enough damage there. We didn't hurt you, though, right? You're okay. Okay. We are going to invite, we have a number of readers from his family to offer some blessings. First, for our country, I'd like to invite up Steve Fry, I believe, uncle? Brother. It's not Jacob's brother.
Oh, yeah, right. Sorry. Andy's brother.
I think his uncle. Yeah. I didn't think there was a fifth, a fourth. This is on page 376 at the bottom, starts with O Guardian.
Good. O Guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation and alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in our work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideas. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Amen.
And I'd like to invite up Aunt Liz for reading a blessing for Jacob on page 381 at the top.
May you live to see your world fulfilled. May your destiny be for worlds still to come. And may you trust in generations past and yet to be. May your heart be filled with intuition. And may your words be rich in understanding. May songs of praise ever be upon your tongue. And your vision clarify a straight path before you. May your eyes shine with the light of the Torah, and may your face reflect the brightness of the heavens. May your lips ever speak wisdom, and your fulfillment be in righteousness, even as you ever yearn to hear the words of the Ancient One of Holiness.
We'll bring Jacob up back to his podium over there, and he is going to symbolically put away our Torah on page 374 with It's a Tree of Life. We invite everyone to rise.
It is a tree of life for those who hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life for those who hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. Ba-da-da-da, shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. It is a tree of life for those who hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. It is a tree of life for those who hold fast to it, and all its supporters are happy. Ba-da-da-da, shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom, shalom. Shalom.
You may be seated. At this point, we're going to have an opportunity to hear Jacob's words of wisdom with the Devar Torah.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
My Torah portion is Akev from the book of Deuteronomy. Akev comes from the same Hebrew root word as Jacob. One definition of Akev is heel, as Jacob grabbed the heel of his twin brother Esau while still in the womb of Rebekah. I was given the name Jacob after my great-grandfather, who was also named Jacob Abramowitz. My great-grandfather was born in the Old City, Jerusalem, and we also share the same birthday. The Torah portion Akev is about the promise between the people of Israel and God after Moses dies. God promised Israel its people would multiply and become a great nation, and its enemies would be defeated. But success for Israel would only happen if the Israelites followed the rules of God and were good people. The Israelites also needed to follow the promise, or brit, that was made between their forefathers. That brit, or promise, is symbolized as the circumcision Jewish newborn boys receive at 8 days old. Now that I'm a bar mitzvah, a son of the commandments, I know I'm not responsible for that promise. I am responsible for God's commandments and for all 613 mitzvot, or good deeds, that are referenced in the Bible. At Congregation Shir Shalom, middle school students undertake a service project leading up to their bar or bat mitzvah. The service project I undertook for my bar mitzvah was coaching a baseball team of 8-year-olds in Amherst this past year. I showed up for practices and all the games and helped the young players with baseball fundamentals and good sportsmanship. I taught them to listen to and respect adults, to include coaches and umpires. I also taught them other important life lessons, such as losing and winning with dignity and respect. For example, I remember we played an away game in Kenmore, and players on the other team were getting loud and rude. I then told my players to focus only on our play. We had a great year, we were league champions, and during the ceremony after a championship win, I made sure my players applauded the losing team when they received the runner-up awards. I also want to recognize someone else who helped prepare me for my bar mitzvah and who lived a life of service to others, the late Mrs. Leah Schneider. This past year, students in my Hebrew school class participated in a regional essay contest where each student recognized a senior citizen. I received a second place award for essay submission about Mrs. Leah Schneider. I would like to now read my full essay. My writing submission is about Mrs. Leah Schneider, who tutored me in Hebrew every week before my bar mitzvah until she passed away in July of 2019. Mrs. Schneider was born in 1947 in Bnei Brak, Israel, a historical Orthodox community referenced in the Passover Haggadah. Her mother and father had moved to Israel from Europe after they survived the Holocaust. Sadly, Mrs. Schneider's mother's only child at the time and all 8 siblings were murdered in the Holocaust. When Mrs. Schneider was 12 years old, she immigrated with her family to the United States and settled in New York City, where she met her future husband, Arthur. He lived with his family in the same apartment building as her in the Bronx. Mr. and Mrs. Schneider were married when he was 19 and she was 17. They relocated to the Buffalo, New York area when Mr. Schneider was stationed in the Air Force in Niagara Falls, New York. They had 3 children, and he later worked as an electrician for General Motors. Ms. Schneider spent 42 years as a Jewish educator, mostly as a kindergarten teacher at the Kadima School of Buffalo. She was the kindergarten teacher for my aunts, 2 of my uncles, and for my father in 1977 when he was a Kadima student. Mrs. Schneider also worked for over 20 years as a Hebrew school teacher and principal at Temple Basetic in Buffalo, New York. She loved teaching arts and crafts, and she was certified in testing students for special learning needs. Always devoted to Jewish education and causes, Mrs. Schneider donated her mother's photographs to the Holocaust Museum prior to its opening in 1993 in Washington, D.C. Mrs. Schneider tutored me in Hebrew every week for nearly 2 years in 2018 and 2019. During our lessons, we would read Hebrew from our lesson book and talk about the next Jewish holiday on the calendar. My parents tried to pay her, but the only form of payment she would accept was a bagel from Bagel J's, a store near her house. Sometimes we would also eat cookies and talk about sports. During the time period Mrs. Schneider tutored me, she was in poor health, was paralyzed from the waist down, and in a wheelchair. But on the days of her Hebrew lessons, she always made sure a healthcare aide helped her get ready for my lesson. No matter how sick Ms. Schneider felt, she was always ready to teach me. The only day she would cancel our lessons was when she was being treated in the hospital. She tutored me right up until she passed away. Mrs. Schneider taught me about Jewish holidays and the Hebrew language, which helped prepare me for my bar mitzvah. She also taught me about wanting to learn. Every week, I saw how dedicated she was to teaching, with the physical limitations she had. Sitting next to her and watching her inspired me to learn and study Hebrew, to look after and respect seniors in our community, and to be grateful, all of which will motivate me to be a lifelong learner and help others. Shalom, Mrs. Schneider, and rest well. To summarize, my Torah portion Akiv, of which the name Jacob is from the root word, is about the agreement where the Israelites had to follow the rules of God and be good people in order to thrive. I'm fortunate to have had caring teachers who showed me firsthand the importance of service. Thank you especially to Rabbi Alex, Cantor Frank, Mr. Horowitz, Mrs. Einav, and her son Gilad for helping me prepare for this day. And to our Kadima teachers, Maura Becky, Mrs. Lewis, Mrs. Herman, and Mrs. Steinberg. I am also thankful to my parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles who showed me the importance of looking after and helping others, such as the youth basketball players I coached. Now that I'm bar mitzvahed and responsible for my action, I will follow the examples set forth by my teachers and parents to be kind to others and to help others in need. Shabbat Shalom.
So we don't clap. What we do is we hold our hands up. This is a way of showing Jacob our appreciation for his wonderful words of wisdom. I'd like to invite up Lori and Andy to offer some words to their son.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you all so much for being here to honor Jacob on his special day. I always try to not get emotional, but it just doesn't seem to work, so just gonna let it happen. I truly feel the love in this room. That has been what I've remembered most from the other important and special occasions in our lives. Our wedding day, Abigail's bat mitzvah. The love that we felt from those who were there to celebrate us and to celebrate with us. And up until recently, we thought that we would be doing this virtually, so we don't take your presence here for granted, and we're so grateful that you could be here with us in person today. For those who are with us virtually or who will be watching the recording, please know that in our hearts, you are here with us too. Jacob, your father and I love you very much, and we are extremely proud of you. And your namesake, your great-grandfather, Jacob Abramowitz, would be so proud of you too. We all thought it was such a coincidence that you were due to be born close to your Gigi Pa's birthday, but we never could have anticipated that you would be born on his birthday, that you would share the same birthday as your namesake. And when we celebrate the day you were born each year, we also honor and celebrate your great-grandfather's legacy. In my heart, I knew then that that coincidence was a sign that you were predestined to live a life of meaning and purpose, just as your great-grandfather had. And in just 13 years, you have already accomplished that. You're a good person, someone who cares deeply about others and seeks to understand them beyond just what's there on the surface. So much so that sometimes I see a budding psychologist in you. Perhaps that is partly because so much of your personality has developed in the context of growing up as a middle child in our family, often finding ways to keep the peace and make things work with your older sister and younger brother. Creating the slideshow for the celebration this evening, I was reminded what a wonderful brother you have been to your siblings. Abigail has described you as mild, funny, and as someone who has good opinions and who often is a voice of reason. Ethan likes that you share and take turns. It's very important to an 8-year-old. And he also really appreciates that you help him with his baseball and all the sports that he loves to share with you. The way that others outside of our family have described you also speak to the type of person you are. Kind, smart, generous, someone who knows right from wrong, a person who tries to do the right thing even when no one is looking, and responsible. Others see you as very responsible. A testament to that is the way you prepared for this special day in your life. You made your own study and practice schedule and never had to be reminded to follow through with it. To me, this represents one of the many ways you are like your father. You take your work seriously, and you have the ability to put your head down and get it done. This speaks to your readiness to stand independently before those who know and love you, and demonstrate that you have developed the maturity needed to officially begin your transition into adulthood. You have already shown that you know what it means to become a bar mitzvah, a son of the commandments, to assume responsibility for yourself and your actions, to care for and about others, to be someone who knows right from wrong and does what is right even when no one is looking. As long as you continue to follow the laws and teachings of the Jewish tradition and listen to your own inner guidance, I know that you will go on to lead the life of meaning and purpose that you were destined to live. And we will always be so very proud to call you our son. I'll just conclude with a baseball quote. The sport that you've loved and shared with your father and grandfather your whole life. Jacob, throughout all of the ups and downs of life, our hope for you is that you never let the fear of striking out get in your way. Mazel tov. You should be very proud of yourself and your accomplishment. And may you always remember the feeling of love that is here in this room today.
So I just want to say thanks to everybody for joining us today on Jacob's Bar Mitzvah. And a big thanks to our relatives who came in from out of town. We have relatives from Philadelphia, Boston, Israel, Las Vegas. Anybody else I'm missing? And thank you to my parents last night for hosting us all for dinner. And Lori and I are very gracious to the rabbi and the cantor, Mr. Horowitz, and Anav and Gilad for helping Jacob prepare for his bar mitzvah. Just a few other items after this. There'll be light food across the parking lot under the tent. And then everyone's welcome to join us tonight at 7:30 at the Irishman We reserve the back rooms. I think it's 5601 Main Street. And it's business casual, don't have to dress up at all. And you don't have to walk through the restaurant if you want. If you want to just, if you're looking at the restaurant, if you want to just walk through the parking lot, in the back there's a patio and a gate to get there. So thanks again, and Shabbat Shalom.
Jacob, there's a lot of ways to translate the word mitzvah. It's one of the hardest things, from bar mitzvah, the age of mitzvah, which could mean commandment. It's often used in the Reform Reconstructionist where we often use good deed. I think what it's closer to is duty, and I would say sacred duty. This is kind of what your mother was alluding to, our purpose and meaning in life. A duty is something that we're called to do, that we need to do, even if it's hard. We still face that pitcher, even though we might strike out. We still have to go out and do the difficult, hard work. If that hard work isn't done, the world kind of falls apart. And I know that this word, this way of understanding mitzvah is something that is really ingrained in you from your family. Your family deeply understands what duty means, duty to family and community, in their just who they are, both your parents and your siblings. They understand the importance of their lives in impacting the world. And I think that you understand that as well. Your Torah portion speaks about the burden, the ekev, that burden that Moses is handing down. But it really doesn't need to be seen as a burden. It might weigh a lot, this tradition, this thousands of year tradition that you've been handed, but that weight gives your life weight. It gives all of our life weight. It makes our life meaningful. And by holding on to it and not letting go and knowing that you don't have to do that by yourself, we do that collectively. That weight, that duty doesn't just fall on you. It falls on all of us together. How wonderful it is that you'll be one of the people that holds up this tradition that you've been handed down. How wonderful it is to know that you will be one of the many holders that will go out there and ensure that it doesn't fall down, that the weight is there, held, suspended as it's been for thousands of years. I feel very grateful that you'll take it on from your parents and grandparents and from Cantor and I and Mr. Horowitz, and be able to lift it to that next generation. Wherever you go, I know I'll be looking forward to hearing about your journey. I know that you'll make all of us proud with what you'll accomplish. We're going to invite you over to the table over here. On the table, we have a number of gifts that are from our community. First of all, we have in that, that's wrapped up in that little box, you can hold that up, that is your very own Kiddush cup. It's wonderful to receive, just like Abigail did, and now you have something to have your sacred occasions. In front of you also you have a certificate. Is there a pen there on the paper? Oh. Okay, if that is your bar mitzvah certificate, if you could sign where it says bar mitzvah there, that is to certify that you have officially become a bar mitzvah. It's his nicest signature ever. I wanted to say, Jacob, that now you've sworn all your future earnings to the synagogue, so thank you. We are going to offer you, Cantor and myself, the priestly blessing. I invite everyone to rise for this. This is our oldest blessing. Why doesn't your family come and surround you and put their hands on you, just like the ancient priests would have done? And we are going to offer you the words from our tradition. May God bless you and watch over you. May God shine God's light upon you and grant you comfort. May God lift God's face to you and grant you and all of us peace. And we say together, Amen. We're going to invite Jacob and his family back to their seats, and we're going to turn to Aleinu on page 586. You may remain standing. Page 591. You may be seated. We'll turn to our mourner's Kaddish at this point, page 598. Jacob, you mentioned in your speech about your great-grandfather, Jacob. That's one of many in your family that we are thinking about and recalling. We know that they're here with us today. In our own community, we recently lost Norma Perlman. There will be a funeral service here at Congregation Shir Shalom at 1 o'clock on Sunday, and there will be Shiva at the Perlman residence. And we also lost Lorraine Pleskow and Howard Helfstein recently. May their memories be for a blessing. All those whose custom it is to rise on page 598 for the mourner's Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah v'alma Tivra, Chirte, V'yamlik Malkute, B'chayachon, V'yamachon, V'chaye, Dechol Beit Yisrael, B'agalau, V'yisman, Kari, V'yamaru, Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba, Mevorach, Le'olam, Almei, Almaya. Yitbarak, V'yishtabak, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitramam, V'yitnaseh. V'yitadar, V'yitalev, V'yitalal, Shmei Dekudashah, B'rechu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechamata, damiran bi'alma v'yimaru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimaru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, huya seh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimaru amen. May the one who creates harmony and high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all the world. And we say, Amen. We are ready now for Adon Olam on page 625.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'terem Kotzir Nivra Adon Olam, Le'et Nasa, Behev Sorko, Azar Melech Shemon Nikra Adon Olam, Adon Olam. Asher Malach, B'Terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, B'Hefzer Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'Yachrei Chlot HaKol, Lavado Imloch Nora Adon Olam, V'Hu Haya, V'Hu Hove, V'Hu Yeh B'Tif Ara Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'Terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, B'Hefzer Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'Hu Echad, V'Ein Sheni, Laham Sholo Lehachbira Adon Olam, Bili Reshit, Bili Tachlit, V'Lo Ha'oz V'Am Yisra Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'Terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, B'Hefzer Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, V'Hu Eli, V'Chai Goli, V'Tzor Hebli Be'et Tzora Adon Olam, V'Hu Nisi, Uman Nosli, Menat Kosi B'Yom Ekra Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'Terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, B'Hefzer Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam, B'Yado, Efki Ruchi, Be'et Eshan V'A'ira Adon Olam, V'Im Ruchi, Givi Ati, Adon Ali V'Lo Ira Adon Olam, Asher Malach, B'Terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, Le'et Nasa, B'Hefzer Kol, Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Adon Olam.
All right, now we just have two final prayers to go. We have the Hamotzi and Kiddush, and Jacob is going to do the Kiddush over the wine. So if you want to take the cup that's over here, and we'll also invite Ethan up to do the Hamotzi. Maybe with Dad's help. So just do it in front of the microphone over there. So take it over. Don't worry, it won't spill because we didn't fill it with anything. That's a COVID safety precaution that one day we will have full cups again.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri hagafen.
Amen. L'chaim. And now, Ethan, we're ready for the hamotzi. If you want to uncover the challah there.
Baruch
atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Now that challah, along with the other things that are items on the table, those are for your family to enjoy during your festivities. Mazel tov to Jacob. Shabbat shalom. We ask you to just return your books over there, Sherry Joe and Joanne are over there. That'll be the exit door. And Mazel tov, we're so happy and proud of Jacob on this wonderful occasion.